What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me. I have someone extremely special and something I haven't done before, which is really cool. I wanted to introduce you guys to a great friend and a client, Justine, and I wanted to thank you so much for being on the show, especially because you're all the way from Hong Kong, but you're also you're aligned with me in Australia as well. But welcome to the show and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly it is an honor.
I love it. Okay, so we're going to dive into it. So, Justin, you have been with me. How long have you been with me for? Like,
I think
all,
about 8 months, almost 8 months now.
yeah, almost 8 months. Okay. And so what I want to do first, before we even dive into like your experience and kind of what we've been like working hard at with your personal development, your physical development, all these things, I really want to kind of like first learn about you and get everybody to know about you because you're not just anybody. And I truly believe that. So let's kind of go back. Like tell us like a little bit more of like where you're from, where you've been, and where you are currently.
So born in South Africa, Durban, and then immigrated to Australia at the age of 22. Spent about 9.5 to 10 years there, and then made my way over to Hong Kong for a boy, but that's for another chapter. I guess growing up, um, just in terms of if we're going to be relating it back to my journey with you, I just grew up with a lot of negative food exposures, a lot of challenges, a lot of body dysmorphia. And back in the day, the crew that I grew up with, it was a very body beautiful beach city, and there was a lot of pressure to look a certain way. I remember, well into my late teens, most of my friends, peers, colleagues, acquaintances had all at some point suffered from some type of food disorder. And there was just a lot of social pressure, a lot of social pressure. And, kind of made my entry into the gym world from the age of 16. Don't think I really knew what I was doing, but I was trying. And after having a very negative experience during my schooling years with physical activities and not exactly, it wasn't exactly my strength. It's become one of my mental strengths now. So it's nice to come out the other end where I am today.
Yeah, I love it. But you
Yeah.
know, you were born in South Africa. I can't imagine that that was an easy upbringing.
Actually had a beautiful childhood, I'm not going to lie. Maybe I had blinkers on. I was young. I wasn't aware of the heaviness of the politics.
Yeah.
I definitely was aware of a lot of the apartheid issues because it very much was ensconced in that time. And I was exposed to a lot of it. I think obviously in my later years as a mature adult, I can reflect on it in a different way. But at the time, I knew no different. And life
Mm.
was easy breezy, beautiful until shit hit the fan. But I
Yeah.
think most countries have gone through that at some point in their lives. But yeah, the segregation was really confusing as a child. I grew up in a very liberal home,
Yeah.
um, and it's it's definitely been a journey. I think we left in the height and the heat of things really getting bad in South Africa, and I think it was a really tough decision for my family to up and leave. We had a lot of losses with that movement, but then some incredible gains. You don't realize how valuable the gains are until you get to the other side,
Mm.
and the losses humble you and make you appreciative of things in life that aren't material.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a struggle. It was a year and a half struggle that I almost blacked out of my life for a while. I was very happy in South Africa. I had a very stable job. I was living on my own. I was in a really solid relationship. And I had to give that all up to go to Australia. My parents had moved ahead of me, actually, but I had a 1 year window to make a decision to go, or I'd have to apply on my own. And I just didn't have the credentials and the points to get into Australia without being
Mm.
on my family's visa.
Wow. That's a big
Mm.
call.
It was a big call. It was a really tough time in my life. If we
Mm.
going to talk about hitting rock bottom, that 100% was one of them. I remember going into my mum's room one night and saying to her, all I can see right now is the world spinning like a globe. spinning, and I just want to press pause, step off, and float into the abyss, and the world can carry on without me.
Yeah.
It was a real big adjustment period. But when I look back, I would do it all again to be where I am now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everybody knows that, like, I've obviously moved my life over from Australia to the US, and it is a massive adjustment, and it's really not for the faint-hearted. Like, you really have to go through a lot of changes, cultural changes, environment changes, and especially when I think you moved to Sydney, right?
Yeah.
And if people that don't really, a lot of my audience are probably from California, or if they're from somewhere in the US, but they don't understand the culture in Sydney. Sydney's pretty, it's different. Can you explain what the environment and the culture is like in Sydney?
I mean, I actually don't mind the environment and the culture in Sydney. It can be quite cliquey, and it really is dependent on, which area you live in. Um, you've got the very laid back northern beaches, almost too laid back for me.
Yeah.
Then you've got a lot of the more, you know, pretentious side of the eastern suburbs. And I kind of found myself struggling to be halfway in between. I've always been the black sheep. I've never picked sides. Very much a floater, if you want to call
Mm.
it that. I want to get the best out of everything. And I guess it was hard to stabilize and find friends. I found it an awkward age to move, but then I look back and I think any age is awkward when you're living in that moment.
Mhm.
We kind of were looking between Canada and Australia because we're trying to, like, okay, climate wise, does it work? Southern hemisphere wise, or Southern hemisphere, New Zealand, Australians, Canadians, South Africans, they all pretty much bond together on some level. And so Sydney was it,
Yeah.
and had to make a go of it. And so I feel like I've lived a couple of different lives in Sydney as well. Grew up on the north side, moved over to the east. So, I do have a complete love for Sydney right now, but you do have to take away what works for you and try and weed through the toxicity that, some of the city has to offer, because it
Yeah.
can be full speed in summer,
Absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
it dies in winter.
Absolutely, yes. But you know what? Like, you then went to Hong Kong, and,
Well, there's a culture shock for you.
yeah, that's
So
insane.
South Africa to Sydney wasn't the culture shock, um, except for the fact that they could swear on radio, which I was absolutely gobsmacked at. But moving over here and, like, kind of thinking, oh, well, I've done this once before. I'm going to literally land in Hong Kong, open my own business, and hit the ground running. Boy, was I wrong.
Mm.
Here you literally are learning a new cultural way, and it's, as we know, east versus west, um, and it's a completely different way of life. And a lot of the people try and segregate themselves into the expat community. And I think where sometimes that fails is you have to adapt. You have to adapt to appreciate, respect, the way the locals live life, the way
Mhm.
they do business. I came in guns blazing, probably a little bit more aggressive,
Yeah.
and not really appreciating the pleasantries and niceties that are required to do business here. I was like, this is a bloody waste of time. I'm not discussing the weather, what you did on the weekend, and I need to get this order done, get that done. And I just wasn't progressing. I wasn't making headway. I had to toe the line. I had to be one of the team. Being a team member has never been an issue for me, but it was just slightly different. You had to lead by example. Hierarchy, you had to play the game.
Yeah.
You had to play the game. And I think it's changed me for the better, for sure. Um, they're just not as aggressive. Everything's extremely black and white. There are no gray areas. It's devoid of color. And at times that can be a huge struggle when you're trying to get shit done. Sitting on a phone, going through 40 different press 3, press 1, say yes, say no, enter a code. A code's going to come to your phone. You're going to go back to number 1, press start to repeat the menu, and you're still not getting it through to an operator. And when you do, you're not speaking the same language.
Oh my gosh.
So, everything is just very structured and routine. That's the way they like to do it. And if you can adapt to that, you can make it work for you.
Well, and you have adapted to it. So, I mean, can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about your business and what you do?
Well, 17 years later, never thought I'd be saying that. I was 100% 1 year and done. So as I said earlier, I moved here in a relationship for that relationship, but made sure that before I landed, I had interviewed for a job. I didn't want to land without having a purpose.
Okay.
And I started working for a spa group. I was the only Westerner working in a very local team. Like our staff room would have been the size of a small bathroom, and there'd be 15 of us piling into there in uniform, all eating and chatting together. So it was definitely a big change for me. I then progressed up in that group, started managing a slightly different business, and then finally opened my own. I'm now in my second solo owned business, the founder of Skin HQ now here. And it's definitely been a journey and a growing process. I think, you know, lessons I would have learned regardless what country I've lived in, who to pick to be on your team. I sometimes think that it's harder to pick a business partner than a husband.
Yeah.
um, that, those divorces can be brutal. But if you can
Hmm.
take away the lessons you've learned from them and just grow from that, I think there's benefit in that too. So
Yeah.
yeah, worked my way up, was in a medical clinic for about 5 years, so gained a lot of medical knowledge, which I think was a fantastic stepping stone that came out of a bad situation. And COVID then hit, that turned things around for me again. But off the bat of that, I opened my own business. So again, took, a variable, took what life threw at me and turned it into something positive. So all about growth. Yeah.
Love it. And
Mm.
you have your brand, and for those of you that don't follow Justine, you really should. She's on Instagram, and I love the Skinner HQ because I love the name, right? You created such a
Skin
smart name.
headquarters.
Yeah, I love it. But you know what? And this is where I really want to tie in a little bit of what we have done with you, and kind of like bring them together, because a lot of people don't realize how much of their skin can be managed by their gut, right? Their gut health. And so
Massive correlation, but gut brain skin axis is all connected.
yeah, so I want to kind of like let's pause on your business and how you've even integrated what we have done into your business, because I think that's going to be huge. But tell us a little bit more about what you struggled with specifically when you started with me.
For me, consistency
Mhm.
was my main struggle, and I didn't realize how important and valuable mindset was when I signed up with you after probably following you for at least probably 6 months to a year of literally being mesmerized by these, 2 minute get your shit together videos in the morning, which really whipped my ass. I realized that when I signed up with you, I 100% thought I was just signing up for nutrition and training. Boy, was I wrong. And I think the first thing we tackled, and it was still almost mystifying to me because I was like, okay, trust the process. We're doing a lot of these positive mindset work. And I remember one of the first questions you asked me was, how do you feel about journaling? And I was like, cringy as fuck. And you were like, I said, I don't even know if I write that much anymore because we don't use pen and paper these days. And you were like, what if you just got an email with a couple of questions a day? And I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Yep. And it's not too bad, but it definitely peels back the onion layers. But I've realized over the 8-month process, how cathartic and how that repetitive knock-on effect of positive affirmations and positive talking and getting through your onion layers of your past traumas or your past experiences. I've gone from someone whose baseline of self-deprecation was how I managed myself in humorous situations and difficult situations. And if you ask anyone around me now, you never hear me self-deprecate. I remember myself like, again, baseline victim mentality, woe is me, what have I done wrong? What is the world, why is the world doing this to me? I don't think like that anymore. So I think the process of getting my mindset right before we started a lot of the actual physical training, which we're doing together now. So it kind of went mindset and nutrition. And then I had a little bit of a blip. I remember I had a little bit of a self-sabotage just before Easter. And then I was just like, right, you've got to get your shit together because you can see that this is actually working and you're your own worst enemy. So you've just got to like really tap into that self-discipline. And I think the difference between looking at self-discipline and looking at the word control has been quite interesting for me, because I've always considered myself maybe a control freak, or, needing to be in control, mainly because if I'm not doing it myself and I'm outsourcing, obviously, where we've got a language barrier, you're going to end up doing a lot of the stuff yourself anyway. So, and then I look at the word control, and it's actually got a little bit of a negative spin on it. And so a lot of my friends would be like, oh, you're just so controlled with your food. You're so controlled with going to the gym. And I said to them, I don't know if I want to use the word control. That's quite negative. I actually look at it as self-discipline. And what you realize in that moment is they're not choosing to use the word self-discipline because it's something they don't have. So they're projecting more of a negative vibe on it. And it was just getting my self-discipline right. It's always something that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed routine, and I prefer a healthy lifestyle. But I was just surrounding myself with toxic noise, toxic behaviors, toxic exposures, people who were, and some of them who still are my really true, real friends. They always knew that I would be the first one to tap out. I'd be the first one to go home, because they just don't apply themselves in the gym and to nutrition the way I did. But then I constantly saw them being unwell, being sick, hating life, always in tears, always in a victim mentality headspace. And I just wanted to make the switch. I was done. And I think being at that place where you want change, even though it's so fucking scary, is a good place to be. I knew I just
Absolutely.
didn't want to continue like that.
I love that. I love that. And
Mm.
so tell me, and this is one of the questions I had written down for you. So what role does discipline play in your life? And how do you even maintain it at this point, right? Like, I know that we've been together for a while now, but how do you now, you've built a good amount of it. Do you feel like there's more to build?
Always more to build. There are always going to be days that challenge you. There's always going to be days where you might be on the brink of self-sabotage, but you always now realize how you're going to feel the next day. So self-discipline to me is just finding that routine that works for you. I always tease my clients, oh, how do you do it? Like, how do you weigh your food every day? You bring your lunch to work every day. You make your breakfast every morning. And I'm like, what's so fucking hard about that, right? As we always say, pick your heart. But it's just once you get into a routine and you get that ball rolling, you become more efficient in different ways. You learn how to, order your some of your groceries online instead of doing, you know, time management is really important when you want to get these goals right. And I always say to my clients, you're all lucky I don't have a kids and a husband, because that would make maybe things a little bit more challenging. But I guess in those circumstances, there's two people in the household, and then you've got maybe some home help. But what they don't realize is that whilst I don't have those additional tasks and people to nurture and take care of, I'm running a business completely on my own. I do not have staff. I don't have anyone that cleans my business. I do everything myself. That in itself, plus running a household, albeit for one, it's still running a home. And it can be really overwhelming at times, really
Oh, yeah,
overwhelming at times. And especially not having any family on the ground for love and support, that can be a struggle. It can be,
absolutely.
yeah, it can be lonely, but I guess getting that routine together, getting up, doing your emails, doing your daily check-ins, it's important. Prioritizing getting my meal prep done in the evening so that it's ready to go in the morning, really important. I've also realized that if I don't go to the gym before work, probably it's going to fail if I try and go at the end of work. So it's just trying to find how things are going to work for you, knowing where your behavioral patterns fail if you don't get stuff done in a certain order is really important for me. Oh yeah, if I finish at 4 o'clock today, then I can definitely leave gym till the end of the day. 4 o'clock comes, someone else has booked in last minute, some other admin issue comes up, you end up leaving work at 6. You don't want to go to the gym. Just get it done in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah.
comes down to that, and you've definitely built a lot of discipline in our journey for sure.
It's called habit stacking, right?
Yeah, habit stacking for
Yeah,
sure, stacking
yeah,
wins. There's so many different ways, but
yeah.
yes, like I like to just stack as many daily disciplines as possible. And some of the time you can create new disciplines in the wherever you're at, even if you're like traveling, and you can create discipline while you're traveling, because you do travel, you travel to Australia back and forth and things like that, so, and you make it work. And I have actually a lot of other clients that travel, and then they use the traveling as an excuse as to why they fell off and they derailed. But I'm like, well, I have this one girl, she travels like across the world and not just across the state, and
With
she's
my
using,
scale, with
yeah,
my scale, with my
like,
blender, with
it's
my
a
protein
choice.
powders. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Exactly. It's a choice. And I think that many people just don't want to make that choice. And I want to ask you this because you have had obviously many obstacles, adversities that you faced. And then you also mentioned that you had a little bit of a setback around Easter. So my question is, how do you navigate the setbacks without letting them derail your progress?
I mean, the setbacks are way less than they used to be just because I'm enjoying this pace of life. And I guess one of the biggest changes in my life was stopping drinking alcohol. Um, it started off, okay, I'm going to do it for 1 month while I get to Nurse Nedge's program. And then 1 month became 2 months, 3 months. I was still like, yeah, I think this is overrated. I'm not sure where the winds are coming in. Suddenly at 4 months, that clarity starts to come into place. And I actually ended up with more anxiety at the thought of drinking alcohol than not. So I think life is a lot easier when you just eliminate a lot of the things that cause you to self-sabotage. It's easier said than done, and it's not for everybody. But for me now, that setback in Easter was an Easter Sunday lunch where I did end up having a few drinks and felt putrid for days. And it's the self-loathing that comes with that. Your eating habits go out the window. You've got your inhibitions go, you've got less control. You're going to skip that one, gym session. You're not going to maybe be giving 110% of yourself to people that are paying for your time. And it was more a reflection on, is that who I want to be? Am I happy in myself as a person when I'm in that moment? And I wasn't.
Mm,
And, setbacks do come with other struggles as well. I've definitely battled um, with food issues in my past, binge disorder, and a few other things. And I think when you're so unhappy in yourself, those type of vices and self-sabotage situations just really ugly head way more often. COVID was extremely difficult for me. And, again, it was like a hellhole of overconsumption and lack of sleep, worry, no routine, work was
yeah.
disrupted. So with a routine that I have now, kicking my nutrition goals, kicking my gym goals, kicking my sleep goals, almost, and definitely, picking up books again, reading, doing things like that. Just your self-worth, your self-integrity, your self-love. You're no longer in a perpetual state where you're going through this cycle of, I hate you, I'm okay with you, I hate you more, I'm okay with you. You're starting to learn to love yourself. And it's such a liberating space to be in mentally. I feel
Mm,
way more calm just with the way I address situations, the way I speak to people. Um, I don't have this heightened escalation from, pure exhaustion, lack of sleep, not feeling my body incorrectly, and also just achieving great things at the gym that I haven't done in the past because I just couldn't give it my all and everything.
yeah.
My gut health, for example, is completely different, and those all have a build up and knock on effect, and you feel lighter as a person,
Yeah.
mainly mentally than anything. I'm not talking about the physical aspect here, and I think that governs and rules everything else.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. I think it's awesome that you have really overcome a lot of things. And I don't want anyone to think that this journey's just been easy and it's just been a bunch of wins being stacked, because it's not like that. We have had ups and downs. If only every journey was like that, I think everyone would take it. But let's talk
Oh, I've
about
I've had yeah, I've had my wobbles, that's for sure. And the amazing thing about working with someone, and having that accountability, um, it's a game changer for me. You can self-sabotage and you can kind of tr trick yourself and get away with it and be like, okay, next week will be better. You don't have a choice with the next week because you've got Snej on your back the next day. You've got your daily email reminders. You're tapping into your every 2 week calls. And I think having that accountability and definitely working with someone that you have respect for, like that
Mhm.
real mutual love and respect of watching your journey, what you've gone through, and really being able to relate on some aspects, I think has made that I don't want to disappoint.
Mm.
I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want to disappoint my coach. I want to get wins for myself. I want to have wins for my coach. So just having that accountability is, you don't know how important that is. And it was all
Yeah.
the things we hated at school. We didn't want to be accountable with our teacher. We didn't want to wake up on time. We didn't want to go to bed on time. How funny that
Yeah.
all the things that we didn't want as a kid, we now crave as adults in order to have simple routine.
Yes, that's so true. That is so true. Well, let's talk about like what you have achieved since being with me and since developing just your journey and your personal and your professional and maybe even how that has actually impacted your business in any way. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I have a healthier relationship with life in general. I have a healthy relationship with being positive naturally, and being able to share and gift on some of those tips and tools that we work through, especially with a lot of, you know, the food aspect, like the seed cycling and the hormone issues, and just being able to share with my clients a little bit of positive affirmations, how to do things differently, just to do check-ins. One of my clients came in yesterday and she's started with a coach because she's been struggling coming out the transition of mum, trying to get back into the workplace. And she just gave me a huge hug when she left yesterday. And she was like, thank you so much for sharing your journey with me, because it gave me fuel to start my journey and my process. So I try and share as much as I can. And, you've been amazing as well with helping me with a lot of my business development. Um, Facing a camera for me was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I can take a million selfies and I can post a selfie now and again, but talking to a screen, seeing myself, hearing myself, not being over analytical, not fussing about the lighting, makeup, hair. This is not fresh hair, by the way. Like it was overwhelming for me. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, let's go.
I love it. I
Let's
love it.
go.
You
Let's
definitely
go. Let's be raw. And the response that you get from people who want reality, who want real, who don't want the filtered you, who don't want someone that feels like they've been over medicated. Do you know what I'm saying? They get the
yes.
best of me. They see my flaws and weaknesses too, um, although they don't dominate my time as much as they used to. But it's just, I've had a client came into me recently and she's like, something's changed. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, your energy's changed. I was like,
Mm.
okay, don't ask, is it good or bad? Just run with it. See what she says. Don't prompt her. She was like, you just feel so much more calm. Like you just, there's just a nice aura and energy about you. And I know where that's coming from. It's
Mm.
coming from just being happier with myself. It's coming from
Mhm.
just being more at peace with things. And it really has a knock-on effect. And I think that energy, it transfers. And, my clients that would come in a complete frazzled state would feed me frazzled and I'd become frazzled. But now I'm feeding them my calm and my peace, and it's a calm and peaceful environment for everyone. Very
Yeah,
different.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely,
Mm,
and I think that's where, like, a lot of the time, especially in your industry, you deal with a lot of people that have to show their face. They can't hide that, right? We can hide how we feel internally, but, unfortunately, our skin does like to showcase what's going on internally.
It's a reflection of everything in your body. Your skin is connected to every organ in your body. It is the largest organ of your body. If you want to try and hide what's going on in your world, your skin ain't going to let you, not even with all the makeup in the world, because I see through that shit.
Yeah.
X-ray eyes now, you know? So it's like, you can really see where people are at. And it's so funny how people think that this process is so easy. They'll come up to me and they'll be like, oh my God, you look great, you seem great, you sound great. Can you tell me what to do? And I'm like, there's no magic pill, mate. Like, this is commitment. There are some difficult times. You have to learn to make sacrifices and adjustments. You have to learn that learn what actually nourishes you and take away what's been destroying you. And it's amazing how the amount of times people will come and ask you for advice and ask you for help. And I said to a girlfriend recently, I will give you 50%. I said, if you do 50% of the 50% for the next 3 months, I'll give you the next 25%. I'm not giving you 100% for you to waste my time when in 3 months' time you're not even doing 5%.
Yeah.
And I checked in on her yesterday. And of course, she's been unwell. She's had the flu. So, it's not going so well. But she'll pick it up after. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. It just
So
doesn't work like that.
so do you ask people, is it part of your process to ask them about their nutrition?
Yeah. Yeah. So I
So
guess I,
cool.
I guess my main concern with them is, what's your gut health looking like? So,
Yeah.
we talk about, if we want to say it nicely to people who are maybe a little bit less on my level, we're like, how's your menstruation and your bowel movements, or how are your poos and your periods? Because poos and your periods are really aligned to how your body is functioning and how your skin is functioning.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of that's going to come down to gut health, to how you are feeding your gut, how your cell membranes are made up of lipids, if you're getting the right amount of good fats. The amount of women that are underdoing good fats and overdoing bad fats, for example, the amount of people that don't understand the priority of protein, or amino acid change when it comes to healing your skin, people whose skin aren't healing, people who come in with self-diagnosed eczema, but their skin's presenting with an essential fatty acid deficiency because they're vegan or vegetarian, but aren't doing it in a conscious manner to understand that you're not getting enough good fats in that kind of diet, and they're not supplementing to do so. Or the people that are come in on a more carnivore style diet and they're totally undervaluing how much fiber they need in their body, and they're just not pooping. That backup of toxicity in your body has not only a reflection on your skin. For me personally, my mood is completely off when my body is not functioning properly. I am not walking in happy. I'm not walking in glowing. My face is puffy. I'm just feeling heavy and down. So to get all those systems moving properly, as much as I don't claim to be a nutritionist, I have done some studies, and I don't claim to be, someone who is professional when it comes to prescribing supplements. There are some basic needs for your skin in order to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
And I was at the gym recently, and there's this lovely, lovely girl. She plays professional football here. She's this gorgeous Asian girl with an Irish accent, which just mystifies me talking to her some days. And she was getting ready in the change room one day, and I was having a peek in her cosmetics case. And I was like, don't mind me. Always like to see what's in people's cosmetics cases, just because it's my job and I find it interesting. She was like, oh, what do you do? I said, no, my job's in skincare. I do a lot of skin correction. It just makes me tick. Every person that comes in, skin is a puzzle for me. It's got different puzzle parts that I need to put together to make it work.
For sure.
And she was like, well, I was wondering if you can help me with a little bit of things here. I get really bad eczema breakouts. And I was like, right, can I have a quick look around? Products weren't too bad. And I was like, are you getting enough fats in your diet with the style of training, the amount of training you're doing? I'm assuming that you're on vitamin D and your omega supplements. She was actually, no, not. I said, really? For your recovery, for your training? I would have thought that would be interesting. Do me a favor, humor me. Gave her a few links for a couple of things to go and buy. I said, but please do be consistent with me. I'm going to check back in with you with a month. I didn't have to check back in with her. She came bounding. This is someone who's quite reserved. Came bounding up to me in the change room. She's like, I haven't had an eczema breakout for about a month now. I can't believe it. I didn't change anything
Wow.
with my products, internal skincare.
There you go. That is
Huge,
awesome. I love that
huge,
you do that.
huge.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think that more people out there need to dive into more than just like the service that they're providing, right? Like it's kind of like me, like everyone, you said it. You thought you were coming in for nutrition, but I really tackled the mindset.
And you helped me tackle my business. Like,
Yeah.
I would never have learned how to do a fucking reel. I'm not telling you that it wasn't a week of agony, because it wasn't as simple as like, I'm going to get someone to do the reel for me. I wanted to learn the program. I wanted to learn how it worked. I wanted to do my own voice recording. I wanted to do my own scripting. I wanted to do my own videoing. And I learned to do it all myself. And once I knew how to do it all myself and put it together, but it was still taking me 4 hours to put together 1 minute, I then outsourced someone to do the final editing for me, because, smarter than harder. But I
Yeah,
needed to know how to do it myself first. I think the
that's so
biggest
good.
lesson in life as well is thinking you're in control of your business when you're not, and
Mm.
taking a change in, like, a tax accountant, to realize how badly you were being screwed over in the past. So always learning how to do it, even if you're getting someone else to do something for you, you should know how to do it and how it bloody works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would love to ask you this question. And, there are many people out there that are sitting on the fence and honestly are still like, could potentially be where you were. So they're stuck, they're maybe in a plateau, they're unsure, they're doubting. What advice would you give them to? I mean, it doesn't have to be with me, but it could be just to start a journey. What advice would you give them?
Take the fucking risk. What have you got to lose? You've only got something to gain here.
Yeah.
And you're not always, be realistic with your achievements, and be realistic with your goals and your timelines and your setting. It's the same with my clients. When they come in, I'm not going to give them a 12-step Korean routine and send them home with 15 products, because chances are they're going to fail. I have to work with their behaviors, their disciplines, their personality, incremental changes, baby steps. What do we say? 1% a day. I think the fear of failure in these things is one of the biggest turnoffs, because if you try and do too much too soon, humans naturally actually aren't good with change. So if you make that change slowly and you start achieving goals each time you make those changes. I know that we had a lot to change, and we kind of worked week by week. When we first started working, now we're at like almost 2 weeks by 2 weeks for check-ins. But in the beginning, there was loads of tiny little, incremental changes, ups, downs, sideways, whatever you want to say. And I think instead of failing, we were making adjustments, and with those adjustments, I was gaining. So trust the process, take the leap. Don't always double guess your bloody coach. Don't go and Google everything yourself, because my clients that come in with the amount of misinformation that they have, and I'm rehashing everything, but they think they know it all. Humble yourself. Really strip back and humble yourself. I don't do what you do. I need to trust what you do. Yes, I've had my pre-exposure and journey, but come to you, you know, with the right attitude to receive. Because
Mm.
if you don't, you're not going to get there. And there are times when you're just like, I don't want to do this. I am not doing this. You've got to get your head in the game. You have to try. And
I
I
love it.
don't see things, as I said to you the other day, I don't see things as failure. Trying in itself is a win. It's a small win, but it's still a win. If you
Mhm.
don't try, that's on you. That's a failure. But if
Yeah.
you try something, it may not work out, or you may need to modify and make adjustments. That's still a win. But
Mm.
not trying, that's on you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I really hope that people can take just your journey of where you've been, where you are, and also where you're trying to go. Like I think that many people need to take that as an inspiration to just take a leap, right? Take a leap of faith, try it, right? Try it. Doesn't matter. Like it can be with any kind of program that's out there, any coaching that's out there. But really just understanding that, yes, we don't know it all. It's almost like if I went and just created my own skincare routine, like I've talked to you about skincare as well. Like people need help, and getting help is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves. So like it's a self-care practice. It's also an investment into yourself. So it's so important. And I really, really value what you have to say today. So thank you so much for everything that you shared. Like, it is so, so important. And I want to remind people that they can follow you. How can they follow you on Instagram?
My Instagram handle is skinhq.hk. Otherwise, just I think research Skin Whisperer,
Or
not
find
self-appointed, not self-appointed. Yeah, and from there, if they've got any questions about any of my services, they can just contact me and DM me through that.
Perfect. Well, I'm gonna also tag you in this when I drop this episode down. I'll also make sure that I put the link there. But thank you so much for everything today, guys. Just remember, you got to like it, you got to subscribe to it, you got to leave us a comment. If there's anything else that I can also offer anyone out there, please let us know. But otherwise, thank you, Justine, for everything today, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.